a girl should save herself for her husband, there were many girls at her Swiss school who had bragged joyously that they'd been up to far more than they should with the opposite sex. But, as much as she thought she might eventually want it with Henry, she wasn't quite sure. Not yet. She didn't want him to go off her, but whatever was happening between them needed to permeate, just a little longer, just until she was sure. "You look beautiful tonight," he had said, his eyes raking her body. And then he had kissed her, his lips crashing against hers, his hands holding her shoulders. She had tried to put her arms around his waist, her eyes wide open, uncertain if she was responding correctly, unfamiliar with how far she should let this go. His eyes were closed, and he was slowly ushering her further into the deserted orangery, until she was up against an oversized hothouse palm her mother had been cultivating for the best part of a decade. His whiskey-soaked breath had coated her tongue as he kissed her harder and faster, and she wasn't sure if it was this, or the realization her skirt was being lifted that made her suddenly rigid. "Henry!" she chastised as she pushed free of his grasp. She attempted to laugh, to brush aside his behaviour. "Come here." Henry held out his hand. Tentatively, she had taken it. Perhaps it was simply the party spirit and a little too much to drink that had motivated him into this small bout of madness. Maybe now he realised he'd been pushing her a little too much and was relenting. "Haven't you wanted this as long as I have?" he asked, nuzzling her neck. Disappointment flooded her. Had he noticed her reaction to him and simply disregarded it? She didn't know what to say. Until this evening, she had never seen this side of him, and it had confused her. "I don't know," she said honestly. It was all happening too fast, and not at all like she'd ever imagined. "I'm not sure. Like this? Here?" "There's nobody about. We could find a dark corner. Over there looks good. I'll lay my jacket down for you so you don't get cold on the tiles." The suggestion of chivalry was misplaced. "No, Henry, I don't." "If you don't know what to do, I'll show you. Now, come on. Lie down over here." "No, Henry." She was firmer now. She finally knew what she wanted, and it wasn't this. "No." "If you loved me," he said, incensed, letting his suggestion hang. She knew in that very moment that she did not. Disappointment had engulfed her. How could it all end like this, so horribly? Without another word, she had turned and left Henry standing in the orangery, breaking into a run until she had found safety in numbers in the ballroom. She needed to be as far away from Henry as possible, to think. And so she had lied. A migraine so painful she thought her head would explode. Her mother had balked at the picture Constance had drawn in front of their guests and excused her daughter. It was almost midnight, and guests would be leaving soon. But instead of running to her bedroom, Constance ran into the cool night air, past the fountain, skirting the ornamental garden, and down towards the loch in the distance, where she had always found her own haven of peace and calm. No guests would brave the dark journey down to the water's edge for fear they would trip to their deaths in the blackout and miss out on the champagne her parents were doling out from their carefully hoarded supply in the cellars under the house. She was entirely alone. Dangling her feet into the cool water, Constance looked back through the darkness to where she could just make out the outline of the baronial mansion. Inside were 50 or so of her mother and father's closest friends, and barely any of her own, still celebrating Constance's birthday with little regard for her absence, and even less for the war outside Invermurray House. It was no longer the faint noise of the band playing, but rather another sound.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.